My name is Brielle Thompson. I'm 28 years old, and the night my father threw us out of our home, he didn't lose his temper. He didn't yell. He didn't argue. He stood there, calm, almost satisfied, holding a stack of papers he never even explained, and said, "This house is mine now. You have 1 hour." 1 hour. My mom's hand started shaking so badly she dropped a plate in the kitchen. My little brother kept asking, "Are we coming back tomorrow?" And me? I just stood there, looking at the walls my grandfather built, the same walls I painted when I was 16, holding a trash bag, trying to understand how a man who never paid the mortgage was suddenly claiming ownership of everything. So we packed clothes, documents, whatever we could carry, and we left. No plan, no savings, no place to go, just silence and disbelief. But what my father didn't know, what he never thought to question, was that years before that night, someone had already signed something, and by the time he tried to take everything, it was never his to begin with. If you've ever seen someone lose everything because of one assumption, stay with me. I didn't have a slow childhood. I had responsibilities before I even understood what bills meant. At 14, I knew how much groceries cost. At 16, I knew when the electricity bill was late. At 18, I knew which months we were barely holding on. My mom worked 2 jobs, morning shift at a diner, night cleaning offices. And my dad? He was around, but never reliable, always talking about plans, business ideas, big moves, future money, but nothing ever actually happened. So without anyone saying it out loud, I became the stable one, the one who remembered due dates, the one who made sure things didn't fall apart. That house wasn't just a house. It was old wood floors, hand-fixed cabinets, a porch my grandfather rebuilt twice himself. He didn't hire people. He did things himself. I still remember him teaching me how to fix a broken hinge using a screwdriver older than both of us. And every time something broke, he'd say the same thing. "This house takes care of the people who respect it." Back then, I thought it was just something old people say. Now I know. He meant it literally. My dad never built anything. He lived inside things other people built. That house? Not his. The stability? Not his. Even the bills? Most of the time, not his either. But over time, something dangerous happened. He got comfortable. Too comfortable. And when people stay in something long enough, without being challenged, they start believing it belongs to them, even when it doesn't. Then Vanessa showed up, and nothing about her felt accidental. She noticed everything: the layout, the space, the neighborhood, the kind of things you don't notice, unless you're calculating. At first, she was polite. Too polite. Then she stayed longer. Then she had opinions. Then she had influence. And slowly, my dad changed. Not overnight, but enough that you could feel it. If someone enters a house and suddenly everything shifts, they didn't just fit in. They're taking control. First, it was comments. "This place needs structure. You guys leave things everywhere." Then rules, then tension, then silence at dinner. And one day, I realized something I couldn't ignore. We weren't living there anymore. We were being tolerated, like guests, in a house we grew up in. And once that feeling starts, it never goes away. That night was too quiet. No TV, no background noise, just tension. My dad called us into the living room. Vanessa stood behind him, not speaking, just watching, observing, like she already knew what was about to happen. And that's when he said it. "Things are changing." That sentence? It never means change. It means removal. He had papers in his hand, not organized, not explained, just held like a prop. "This house is legally mine now." That's what he said. Confident, certain. And the scariest part? He believed it, completely, without verifying a single thing. And Vanessa? She didn't say a word. But she didn't need to. Her silence was agreement. He gave us 1 hour. Exactly 1 hour. I remember checking the time on my phone. 9:12 p.m. We packed in silence. Trash bags, old suitcases, a shoebox with documents. My mom folded clothes with shaking hands. My brother kept asking, "Are we coming back?" No one answered. And me? I didn't cry. Because I knew, if I stopped moving, I wouldn't be able to start again. We stepped outside with everything we could carry. No goodbye, no discussion, just distance. And then, he closed the door. Slowly, deliberately, like sealing something. That sound? It stayed in my head longer than anything he said, because that's when it became real. We weren't leaving temporarily. We were removed. We ended up at my friend Caleb's apartment. Small, 1 bedroom, barely enough space, but safe. And that night, while everyone tried to sleep, I sat awake on the floor, back against the wall, thinking about one thing. Not what we lost, but what didn't make sense. Because my grandfather wasn't careless. He didn't leave things open. He didn't trust blindly. And there was no way he would leave something that important, unprotected. And that's when it hit me. We didn't know everything yet. And sometimes, the truth doesn't show up immediately. It waits until the right moment to break everything open. If you think this ends with us just losing everything, you're wrong. Because what I found out next didn't just change the story, it flipped it completely. Subscribe. The first morning after we got kicked out felt wrong. Not dramatic, not chaotic, just quiet. Too quiet. I woke up on Caleb's floor, my phone still in my hand, battery dead. For a second, I forgot where I was. Then I looked around. 1 couch, 1 small kitchen, 3 people trying not to take up space. And it hit me. We weren't going back. No call, no message, no "come home." Nothing. And that silence? That wasn't confusion. That was a decision. Caleb's apartment was 600 square feet. 1 bedroom, 1 couch, 1 bathroom, 4 people. My mom took the couch. My brother slept next to her. I took the floor. At night, I could hear everything. The fridge turning on, cars passing outside, my mom trying not to cry. And Caleb? He never complained. Never asked, "How long?" He just said, "Stay as long as you need." And that hit harder than anything, because a stranger made space for us, while our own family removed us. By day 3, I opened my bank app. $482. That was everything. No backup account. No hidden savings. Just $482 for 4 people. I remember staring at that number thinking, this isn't stress anymore. This is survival. So I made a list. Food, transport, emergency, and I cut everything else. Because when life resets like that, you don't get to be emotional. You get to be precise. My mom didn't cry loudly. She didn't break down. She just got quiet. Too quiet. She stopped asking questions, stopped making plans, stopped even saying, "It'll be okay." And that scared me more than anything. Because I'd never seen her like that. She wasn't just tired. She felt displaced. Like something inside her didn't know where it belonged anymore. And watching that, it changed me. Because I realized I wasn't just helping anymore. I was responsible. A week passed, then 2, then 3. No call. Not from my dad. Not from Vanessa. Nothing. No apology, no explanation, not even curiosity. And at some point, you stop waiting. Because silence like that, it's not hesitation, it's confirmation. He didn't just remove us, he moved on. That's when something inside me shifted. I stopped thinking like a daughter and started thinking like a provider. I picked up extra shifts, late hours, double weekends. I tracked every dollar, groceries down to cents, gas down to miles, because now, if I didn't hold everything together, no one would. If you've ever had to grow up overnight, you know this feeling. There's no transition, just pressure. The first time I paid for groceries myself, I remember the exact number, $63.47. Not a lot, but it felt like control. Then I paid for a full week, then two, then rent contribution to Caleb. Small steps. But each one said the same thing. We weren't stuck. We were rebuilding. And rebuilding feels slow until it doesn't. School stopped being school. It became my exit strategy. I stayed longer, studied harder, took extra projects no one wanted, because I understood something clearly now. Talent doesn't save you. Position does. And I needed a position where no one could remove me again, so I worked like I had no backup. Because I didn't. Final semester, I got the call. A multinational firm. Salary, $68,000 starting. Benefits, housing support, stability. I remember reading that email 3 times, because it didn't feel real. Not after where we came from, not after sleeping on the floor. But it was real. And for the first time since that night, I didn't feel pressure. I felt direction. The first thing I did wasn't celebrate. I moved us. Company provided housing, 2 bedrooms, clean kitchen, working locks. Safe. When my mom walked in, she didn't say anything. She just sat down and took a deep breath, like she had been holding it for weeks. And my brother? He asked one question. Are we staying here? And this time, I said yes. Even with everything improving, something stayed in my mind. That house. The way my dad claimed it. The way he never explained anything. And one question kept coming back. How does someone who never handled responsibility suddenly take full control of something that important? It didn't add up. Not logically, not legally. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized we were missing something. Something important. If you think this story is just about getting kicked out, it's not. Because what I found out next wasn't emotional. It was legal. And once that truth came out, everything changed. Stay with me. It was a random afternoon. Work day. Normal routine. My phone rang. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. But something felt off. So I answered. Brielle? That voice. I hadn't heard it in years. My uncle. My grandfather's younger brother. Not close. Not distant. Just someone who existed in the background. But the way he said my name, calm, serious, told me this wasn't a casual call. He didn't ask how I was. Didn't ask about my mom. He asked one thing. Are you still living in your grandfather's house? That question immediately felt wrong, because if he knew anything about our family, he should have already known. So I paused and said, no, my dad made us leave. Silence. Long. Measured. And then he said something that changed everything. His exact words. That doesn't make any sense. Not emotional, not shocked. Just factual. Like someone correcting a mistake. Then he asked, did your father show you any legal documents? That's when everything shifted. Because suddenly, this wasn't about family drama. This was about ownership. About something official. Something real. He didn't explain anything on the phone, just said, come see me. Tomorrow. No details, no hints, just certainty. So the next day, I drove. 2 hours. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't even explain it to my mom. Because something inside me already knew. This wasn't small. He was waiting. Already sitting at the table. And in front of him, a folder. Old, organized, carefully preserved. The kind of folder people don't keep unless it matters. He didn't rush. Didn't build drama. Just opened it. Slowly, then said, "Your grandfather made a decision," before he passed. He turned one page toward me, pointed at a section. "Read that." So I did. At first, it didn't fully register. Legal language, dates, signatures. But then I saw it. One line, clear, simple, undeniable. Property ownership, transferred. Years ago. I read it again. Slower this time, carefully, because my brain wasn't catching up fast enough. Then it clicked. The name on that document was mine. Not my dad's. Not shared. Not conditional. Mine. Legally. Officially. Final. And in that moment, everything started making sense. The way my dad rushed us out. The way he never explained anything. The way he avoided details. It wasn't confidence. It wasn't authority. It was assumption. He didn't know. He never checked. He just believed it was his. And based on that belief, he made his biggest mistake. My uncle explained everything. My grandfather didn't trust my dad with responsibility. Not long term. Not with something that important. So quietly, without drama, without making it a family issue. He made a legal move, a final one, to protect the house. And somehow, he chose me. That's when something changed inside me again. But this time, it wasn't survival. It wasn't pressure. It was control. Real control. Because now, I wasn't just rebuilding my life. I owned something. Something valuable. Something my dad believed was his. And the best part? He had no idea. I didn't go home and tell my mom. Didn't call anyone. Didn't confront my dad. Because reactions give people time to adjust. And I didn't want that. I wanted reality to hit him the same way it hit me. Unexpected, unavoidable, final. So I stayed quiet and waited. If you think I went back and confronted him right away, I didn't. Because sometimes the smartest move isn't reacting. It's waiting for the right moment. And when that moment came, he walked straight into it himself. Weeks passed. Nothing changed. No calls, no contact. But behind the scenes, something else was happening. Because people like my dad don't sit still. They plan. They move. They try to level up. And when they do that, without knowing the truth, that's when everything collapses. I heard it through relatives first. Casually. Like normal gossip. Your dad's planning something big. Something about selling the house. Selling. That word hit different. Because now, this wasn't just about control. This was about exposure. Because selling something requires proof. And proof? He didn't have. I could have stopped it. One call. One sentence. Check the ownership. But I didn't. Because sometimes, people need to see their mistake completely. Not halfway. Not corrected early. Fully. So I let it happen. Every step. Every move. Every assumption. Because I already knew how it would end. Offers started coming in. Serious ones. Buyers interested. Lawyers involved. Documents being prepared. Everything moving fast. Too fast. And the faster it moved, the closer it got to the truth. Because reality doesn't wait forever. Eventually, it shows up. And when it does, it doesn't ask permission. About 3 weeks after I found out the truth, my father made his move. Not quietly, not carefully, confidently. He listed the house, full market price, professional photos, clean description. Family-owned property. That line almost made me laugh, because technically, he wasn't wrong. It was family-owned, just not by him. And this time, Vanessa wasn't in the background. She was leading everything, talking to agents, handling calls, reviewing offers. She wasn't emotional. She was strategic, calculated, like she already saw the future. Bigger house, better life, upgraded status. And my dad? He followed, because for the first time, he felt like he was winning. It didn't take long. The house had value, location, structure, history. Within days, they got a serious buyer, cash ready, no delays, lawyer involved immediately, everything moving fast, too smooth, because when something moves that perfectly, it usually means one thing: no one has checked the foundation yet. The closing meeting was scheduled, formal, professional, final step, buyer, lawyer, documents ready. My father walked into that room, believing this was the end of the process, that everything was already his, that all he had to do was sign. He sat there calm, relaxed, even proud. Vanessa beside him, quiet but focused, the kind of silence people have when they think they're in control. They weren't rushing, because in their minds, there was no risk, no doubt, no reason to question anything, and that's exactly why what happened next hit so hard. The lawyer started reviewing documents, standard process, routine verification. Then he paused, looked at something again, adjusted the paper slightly, and asked, "Can you confirm your legal ownership of this property?" Simple question, normal question, but questions like that? They don't come randomly. They come when something doesn't match. My father didn't hesitate. Of course, it's mine. Confident, immediate, certain, because in his mind, there was nothing to doubt. But the lawyer didn't respond. He just looked back at the file, quiet, focused. That kind of silence? It doesn't mean confusion. It means confirmation. Then the lawyer slowly turned the document around, pointed at one line, one name, and said, "That's not what this shows." My father leaned forward, looked, and for the first time, his expression changed. Not fully yet, but enough. Enough to feel something shift, because the name on that document wasn't his. It was mine. Clear. Official. Undeniable. No confusion. No loophole. No explanation that could fix it. Just truth. Sitting there, in front of everyone. And in that moment, everything collapsed. The plan, the confidence, the illusion. Vanessa stopped talking. The buyer leaned back. The room changed. Because now, this wasn't a deal. It was a mistake. A serious one. The buyer didn't argue, didn't negotiate, didn't wait. He stood up, closed his folder, and walked out. Because no one buys a house from someone who doesn't own it. Simple as that. Vanessa was the first to react. Not emotionally, strategically. She started asking questions. Fast, sharp. What is this? How is this possible? Why wasn't this verified? Because now, this wasn't about the house anymore. It was about control slipping away. My father didn't speak. Not immediately, because realization doesn't hit all at once. It builds, second by second, as everything you believed starts falling apart. And in that moment, he understood one thing clearly. He never owned that house. Not even for a day. That's when panic started. Not loud, not dramatic, but real. Because now, There was no move left, no document to show, no authority to claim, no position to stand on. Just a mistake he couldn't undo. News doesn't stay contained. Not in families, not in communities. Within days, people started hearing, questions started coming, doubt started spreading. Because when something like this happens, it doesn't stay private. It becomes a story. At that point, there was only one thing he could do. Not sell, not fight, not deny. Come back. Because the only person who could fix this was the one he removed. And for the first time, he needed me. And that's when everything fully flipped. Because the man who gave us 1 hour to leave now had no authority, no ownership, no control, just a problem. And the only solution was standing outside his reach, waiting. A week after the deal collapsed, he reached out. Calls, texts, then silence. Then finally, he showed up. Not angry, not aggressive. Calm, careful, almost respectful. Like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't thrown us out with trash bags. And that's when I understood. This wasn't confusion. This was adjustment. He didn't mention the house at first. Of course he didn't. He talked about family, about moving forward, about fixing things. Like this was all just a misunderstanding. But the way he spoke, too smooth, too controlled, too practiced. And underneath all of it, you could hear urgency. Vanessa didn't waste time. She stayed quiet at first, observing, watching me, measuring my reaction. Then she stepped in. Soft voice, professional tone. Like this was business, not family. Because for her, it always was. A few days later, they picked their moment. My engagement dinner, a room full of people, friends, colleagues, people who didn't know the full story. And they walked in, like they belonged there, smiling, confident, like nothing had ever broken. They blended in easily, talking, laughing, shaking hands. My dad acting like a proud father. Vanessa acting like everything was under control. And if you didn't know better, you'd believe it. But I wasn't watching the act. I was watching the timing. Because people don't show up like that. Unless they need something. Then Vanessa walked over to me, holding a folder. Calm, direct. We just need to clear something up. There it was. No apology, no emotion, just intention. She handed me the papers. Just sign these, so everything can move forward. I didn't react, didn't rush, just read, line by line, carefully, because people like her hide things in details. And there it was, clear enough. They weren't fixing anything. They were trying again. Different approach, same goal, control. And that's when I smiled. Not because it was funny, because everything finally made sense. Every move, every assumption, every mistake. They walked right back to me, thinking they still had a chance. But this time, I was ready. I looked at them, calm, steady, and said, "You should have checked ownership before making plans." That's it. No drama, no raised voice. But that sentence, it landed. Because calm truth hits harder than anger. My father froze, completely, like his mind needed time to catch up. Then it hit him. Not everything, but enough. Enough to understand. This wasn't going his way anymore. I didn't rush. I just said it. The house is in my name. It always has been. Silence. Real silence. The kind that fills a room, because no one expected it. Not the guests, not Vanessa, and definitely not him. I stepped closer, not aggressively, just enough. You didn't lose the house today. You lost it the moment you assumed it was yours. Because that's the truth. He never had control. He just believed he did. Then I gave him something unexpected. Not anger, not revenge, a choice. You can stay there, if you want. And for a second, he looked relieved, until I finished. But it will never belong to you. That ended everything. I didn't wait for a reaction, didn't need an apology, didn't need closure, because closure isn't something you hear, it's something you feel. And in that moment, I felt it. Complete. If you've ever been in a situation where someone tried to take control of your life, remember this: confidence isn't ownership, and silence isn't weakness. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is wait and let the truth reveal itself. Tell me in the comments. Would you have told him earlier? Or done the same? And if you're new here, subscribe. Because stories like this, they're not about revenge. They're about power. Finally going to the right person.